Hi everybody. We are almost at 12:30. I think one more minute. And my name is Marina from Soul in the Raw. I'm a coach and I'm a raw food expert. And I have a free Facebook group called Raw Souls. If you're a raw soul, welcome. And if you're not yet, I hope you can join us. It's a great place to share, get support, get recipes, and all that kind of stuff. I'm so happy to have you here with me. And today we're talking about processed food. Super important topic. And I think a lot of people believe that they're not eating processed food when they really are. So that's kind of why I wanted to do this video today, this Facebook Live, is to inform both people who don't really know what processed food is, what it is, and how to avoid it. And also for those of us that think we're not consuming it and we might be. Which I find a lot of my clients are. So thank you for joining me. I'm going to be looking over here to my computer for all my notes so that I don't forget anything. First of all, I want to share with you my story with processed food. So I have been a high raw vegan for 5 years now. That means I've been eating vegan and mostly raw food, so not cooked food, unpasteurized, unheated, for a majority of my diet for almost 5 years now. And I've been loving it, and it was a very gradual process. So the first thing that I did together with my partner to get healthy is precisely to get rid of processed food. And that's why I want to talk about it. It's huge. It will change your life if you get rid of processed food. Truly, I promise you. So how did we do this? We started looking at ingredient labels. We started looking at what we were buying in the grocery store. We started actually being aware of what we're putting in our body. That's really the first step that everybody should be doing. So it took a long time. I would say it took us about 4 years to become fully vegan, and to get rid of animal products and especially dairy. That was the toughest for us. I was vegetarian for a long time before that, but giving up dairy was really tough. And I will say that animal products, especially conventional animal products that you get in the grocery store, are definitely processed food. They contain hormones, they contain food dyes, additives, all this stuff to keep it on the shelves, and it makes them extremely unhealthy for you. And actually the World Health Organization, I think just this past year, said that they can be strongly linked to causing cancer, which is something I think that vegan doctors and the vegan community has known and researched for years now. So it's really great to get that kind of stamp of approval from the WHO, the World Health Organization. But I highly recommend that part of removing processed food will be to remove animal products from your diet. Now, just a quick note, because I started kind of researching this to make it logical for you about the organic and the grass-fed and all that kind of animal products, the free-range eggs or the organic eggs and that kind of stuff. They could not be considered processed food, but they still are unhealthy for you, not because they are processed, but because they contain a ton of fat, a ton of cholesterol, and having them organic does not mean that they are all of a sudden healthy. So I just want to get that out there and keep that in mind. You are consuming a ton of unhealthy, saturated fat and cholesterol when you are consuming animal products. So try to avoid them, organic or not. Okay, so what is processed food besides kind of what I've said so far? So to illustrate this, I want to show you the following things. Number 1, an apple, okay? Number 2, this is coconut palm sugar. This is sugar that is made from coconut. The only ingredient on the back here is organic coconut flower nectar, okay? And number 3 is hemp seed oil. Now, all of these three things are from my house, and so I wanted to show you them and pick your brain, like which ones do you think are processed or not. This one is the most obvious, right? It's the most obvious. It's an apple. It's obviously unprocessed. And of course, you want to try to get an organic apple. Now, the coconut sugar is used in the health community, in the vegan community, in the raw community also a lot. Does that mean it's not processed? No. It came from a really healthy thing, coconut. We look at the ingredients and we understand them. There's only one, it's very clear, but it's still processed because it took a process to make this. It's not that you're eating the original thing, which is coconut. So that's one thing, okay? Always think of, how was this made? Do I know how this is made? Did they leave things out? So if you see on the back, you look at three things: fat, carbs, and protein. Now, when I look at fat, it says 0%. When I look at, where are my carbs? So 20 calories, and they're all from carbs. Protein, 0 grams, okay? So whenever you see something that has only one of the three things, the other two things are 0. So we have protein, fat, and carb, and 2 are 0, and 1 has a %. It's a processed food because to make this, they left out a lot of things. They threw them away. It's not the whole food, it's a part of the food. And the same thing with this hemp seed oil. If you look on the back of the hemp seed oil, you will see that it has 0 calories from protein, 0 carbs, and it has 130 calories from fat, when this whole thing has 130 calories, right? So it's 100% fat. In order to make this, they left out the carbs and they left out the protein, along with a lot of other things like fiber and other nutrients. So this is why I don't recommend oil, and I will be talking more about that in a minute. So I've kind of explained to you how to recognize processed foods. So processed foods are basically foods that either, that went through a process to be made. And even blending is processing. So some people say it's not a good thing to do. So I'm not here to tell you that all processed foods are bad. It's something that we have to think about, and we have to understand how are these foods made and make the decision. So with blending, I'm totally fine with it. And it does put in oxygen into your food when you blend. It does maybe oxidize it because the metal is hitting the food, but it's still like you're making it and you know exactly what's in it. So I don't consider it a processed food like other foods, and I still consume it. Now with oil, okay, so I used to use oil a lot when I started eating healthy, when I started trying to eat healthy, because I wasn't informed. A lot of the raw food community uses oil without knowing that it's actually unhealthy. I don't consider this a health food because it has so many calories from fat, without the other stuff that our body needs. We don't need this much fat. And also it takes up the space for other nutrients. So in 130 calories of fat, I could be fitting in so many more nutritiously dense foods than this thing, which has like 0% of all these vitamins and nutrients, and just vitamin E, which is usually in good fats. So I actually have this bottle for my hair. So just a nice tip. This was actually, I used to use coconut oil, but then my friend Michelle, if you watch this, thank you, Michelle. She told me that she uses this, so I started to, and I love it on my skin and on my hair. So that's why I have this. I do not eat it. With coconut sugar, also not a health food, absolutely not. I still eat it occasionally. So we don't need to be extreme. And we can also decide to eat processed food, even like super heavily processed food, once a week. It's not going to kill you. It's just not something that you want to eat on a regular basis. So I try, in my home, you will not find any like processed food where when you read the ingredients, you don't even understand what's in there. So that's the most critical thing I want to tell you. skip that as much as you can. Do not consume foods that have additives or, you know, all those like food colorings. And just the easiest way to do this is you're in the grocery store and you pick up the food that you want to buy and you read the label. And this is something that I never used to do. I never used to read the labels of food. And I started doing it when I became more aware about how important it is. And so I started reading food labels and realizing that I was buying all this stuff that is, it's like alien names, you know? So when, you know, I used to be like everybody else, go to the grocery store and pick up whatever I need. I need cheese, I need sugar, I need flour, whatever it is, you know, I would pick it up and I wasn't thinking, what am I picking up? This is so important, okay? This is probably the most important thing in the world. And I'm not exaggerating actually, because whatever you put into your body is what you have. So if you're putting in all the stuff that are completely foreign to your body and you don't know what they are, you don't know where they came from, you are doing insane damage to your body. And, you know, we're seeing all these horrible diseases on the rise. And that's part of the reason why, because we're not paying attention as a people to all this food that we're eating. So I wanted to draw something for you. Let me see if I can get a pen. I forgot to get one. Let me grab one really quick. 1 second. Okay, I'm back. Okay, I want to draw something for you. So, this is your typical grocery store. I'm very good at drawing, but bear with me. Now, this is the section where you have the produce. So let's do this. Okay, we have the produce there. And you notice it's like the smallest section in the grocery store. And this is the other stuff. Right? This is what your grocery store normally looks like, unless you're super lucky and it's different. But that's how it is. And you know what? When I started eating healthy, I seriously was horrified when I started realizing that 3/4 of my grocery store contains things that are not food. This is not most of it, okay? It's not food. Like all of this processed stuff that I have no idea, I don't even know what it is. For example, vanilla extract. The typical vanilla extract contains, I think, even no vanilla or something insane, okay? So this is your grocery store. And I want you to remember this when you go into the grocery store. Your goal in transforming the processed food habit is to make this your shopping cart, but to flip these names. So what does it mean that 3/4 of your shopping cart is going to be produce? So let's write this out. And this is a really powerful way to transform your health. It really is. Because when you're getting produce, you can't go wrong. It's not going to be bad. You know, it's not going to be bad for you. Of course, it depends on how you prepare it and if you use oil and a ton of salt and sugar. But in general, if your house and your cart are filled with 75% produce, that's amazing. That's a great start, okay? So, this stuff, the other stuff, can also be healthy. There is a question. Oh, we'll catch the replay. Okay, cool. Thanks, Katie. And if you have questions, Katie, you can leave it under the video even when you're watching the replay. And I'll get back to you. So this other stuff can still be healthy stuff, and it can be a little bit of processed food when you're just starting to transition. That's okay. You want to focus on the produce, because the produce is food, okay? You know exactly what you're buying. The other stuff, the processed stuff, it's not food. And try to practice just looking at it and seeing plastic, seeing something that's just not supposed to be consumed by humans. And if you think about it, maybe even 100 years ago or so, this stuff did not exist. So we made this up, we created it. And anything that we create in a lab is not food. It's not meant to be food. Also, packaged foods and things in packages, not that I don't buy them, obviously, I have a package here, I still do, but it's bad for the environment. It actually causes a lot of animals in the ocean, for example, to die because they get wrapped up in it. And so I just try to recycle my plastic and I try to reuse it instead of buying a lot of packages. And I also try to shop at fruit stands or farmers markets instead of a grocery store. One, because it's a lot more fun, because you just go there and there's produce everywhere and you can't go wrong, instead of seeing the other things that might tempt you. And number two is that you can grab a bag instead of getting all the stuff in packages. Like you will notice that even in grocery stores, when you buy produce, it can be wrapped up in all this plastic. It's pretty crazy. So that's why I like it. And if you happen to live in San Diego, I will advertise. Not that they sponsor me in any way, but I just really love this place. It's called the Fruit Stand. So I totally recommend checking it out. They have great produce. Okay, so now I've kind of covered up until now what is processed food, where is the processed food in the store, and why do we want to avoid it. And if you have any questions at any point, please feel free to ask, because this can be confusing. So again, processed food is stuff with additives, food coloring, just things preservatives, things that are put into food to keep it fresh, to keep it from going bad, or to enhance the flavor. So a lot of times also, if you find something that says low fat, what they do is they take out the fat, but in order to enhance the flavor so that people actually continue to buy this, they put in all these additives, all this sugar, processed sugar, and all that kind of stuff. So that's the kind of things that we definitely want to avoid. And, if you focus on the produce, it's really simple. That's one thing. And another thing is, if you're reading the ingredients of something that you want to get, even like salsa or something, and you don't recognize it, what you should be doing is either don't get it or look it up. And it's really scary, because I look these things up that I think, oh, this might be harmless, and then I see side effects and just all this crazy stuff about it. Oh, so I avoid it. Okay, and now I want to talk about how do we avoid processed food. I want to give you strategies, because I do remember that it was a process for me, and it wasn't so easy to just I didn't do it overnight. And I think that some people are great at doing something overnight, and that's good for them. And some people, like me, and I think most people are like that, they need a process to go through in order to become healthier and to get rid of junk from their home. So, first of all, I want you to remember this image. And if you want, draw it out for yourself and flip your grocery store to create your new shopping cart. And in that shopping cart, I want you to have 3/4 of it be produce, and a small amount of it to be other stuff. When you're starting out, so let's say you're not in that situation. Let's say your cart actually looks like the grocery store. That's okay. If this is your starting point, I want this line to slowly shift. I want you to try to get in more produce as much as you can. Just focus on that produce and just start moving that line until you learn all these recipes and strategies to make food with produce. And if you're lost with what do I do with produce, you can definitely join Raw Souls on Facebook, because we share recipes all the time. And let's say you find a fruit or a vegetable that you're unsure about, or you know how to use it. Or even if you're stuck with, what do I have for breakfast? What do I have for lunch? What do I have for dinner? Snacks, things like that. That's an awesome place to ask, and we will help you. So I'm personally in there every single day, and there's also over 1,000 people in there now, and they can help you as well. And also one fun thing to do is just to Google things. So when I started like actually making my food, instead of always eating out and things like that, I started Googling recipes, and I started learning how to make quick things with fruits and vegetables, you know, nuts and seeds and sprouts. And I was having so much fun. So even if you see all these new produce items that you have no idea what to do with, you take your time and you learn recipes, and you also learn some recipes that are going to be like your go-tos, you know, just recipes that you're always going to go back to, and you can always change it up. Question. I tend to buy a lot of dried legumes and rice. I typically use them as a base for most of my meals. How do you feel about this? Eating all fresh produce tends to be pretty pricey and not as filling. Wait, I have to read your whole comment. Okay, I kind of got the gist, but it showed me like half of it, Jordan. Okay, great question. I feel great about it. I also do that, so I don't consider rice and dried legumes processed. I mean, of course, they're dried and stuff, but you know, they're still from nature. We still see it, and it's the whole food. It has the carbs, the protein, and the fat. Actually, all of them, and the ratios are awesome because they're very low fat, they're very high carb, and they also have a great amount of protein. So I feel awesome about that, Jordan. Keep doing it, and I totally agree with you that eating all raw basically is very expensive. So if you are at that point and you can afford it and you like doing it, great. If not, cooking legumes and things like that is awesome. Just one thing I would recommend is to soak them in water overnight. That's not just, it shortens the cooking time, but it's also healthier for you because it gets rid of different compounds in them that make it harder to absorb minerals and vitamins. So that's my point on that. Okay, and if you have more questions, please type them below. Okay, so that's the point. That's one point about how to get rid of processed foods in your home. Slowly just try to not bring them into your house, because if you think about it, if you have processed food in your house, you are going to eat it, like chips and that kind of stuff. But if you get rid of them, you're like eating them will be harder, you'll do it less. So you're probably wondering, okay, I can get rid of the stuff, but what do I eat instead, right? So one thing you can do is just instead of getting rid of it and just eating completely differently right now, you can replace them with something else. So for example, I said chips. People love to snack on chips. You can get kale chips or make kale chips. And it's actually really cheap to make kale chips, by the way. Like even organic kale can cost $1 a bunch. And you can do it in your oven on a low setting, or if you have a dehydrator, you can do it in a dehydrator. Also, you can make your own hummus, both cooked and raw hummus. I have a recipe for it, and if anybody's interested, you can write it and I will send you the link. So you can replace that with crunchy veggies and dipping with hummus. You know, if it's milk, you can make your own almond milk, and I also have a trick to that, which is, I can just tell you right now, the trick that can be used is just to put a tablespoon of almond butter into like 2 cups of water and just blend it. And it takes seconds, and it's so delicious. Instead of actually also vegan almond milk that you can buy in the grocery store, number one, it's more expensive than making your own, and number two, it has a lot of additives too in there to keep it fresh. I mean, when you think about it, like how long will these almonds and water last? Not too much, right? So always be checking that. So going to my next point is always read the ingredient labels. Always, always, always. And I know that for some of you, it might be like a totally new thing and you're not familiar with it because you trust the grocery store, and don't. Unfortunately, we cannot trust the grocery store, and we have to take it into our own hands to take care of our health. And it is frustrating in the beginning, and it's very empowering after a while, because know that the power to be healthy is in your hands. It really is. And it's so much easier to prevent disease than to cure disease. So let's prevent it. Let's not get to the point where we have to cure something, because that's so much harder. And preventing disease with the whole food, which is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about whole foods. Diet is amazing. It's delicious. It's super cheap. And it's fun, you know, and you get to avoid all of this processed food. So all I'm asking of you to do is to just start looking at all the packages that you're used to buying. Start looking at the ingredients on there. If you don't recognize something, the easiest thing to do is just get rid of it. Don't put it in your cart. And make it a process. You know, you can even make it a challenge for yourself and say, this week I'm going to get rid of 5 things and I'm going to decide what to replace them with. Another thing is fruit. You can, you know, bananas are so cheap. And just get a ton of fruit and replace your snacks with fruit, because, or even your meals. I eat meals of fruit personally, and it's filling, it's delicious, it's relatively cheap, especially if it's not organic. But some fruits are cheaper than others, and it's just a great option. So start doing that. Now, so I want to talk about the oil, because so many people that eat really, really, really healthy still eat oil. And that's the one thing I would tell them to please get rid of. So it's something that I started getting rid of kind of recently, because I always thought that oil is healthy. I grew up in a Mediterranean country. I used to eat olive oil. Like, I used to get it from my Palestinian friends that their grandparents made it. So it really tasted really good, and it smelled really good. It was really fresh, unlike the stuff that you usually get in the grocery store. And still, I want to tell you, it is not a health food. Why? Because it's processed food. So just like I was showing you with the hemp seed oil and with the coconut sugar, it has to go through a process to be made, where they get rid of a lot of good stuff on the way. And for me, like, I prefer to eat coconut sugar or coconut nectar or maple syrup, where it is mostly carbs, but it's still a processed food, and I don't eat it daily. I eat it every once in a while, than to eat something that's 100% oil, because it has so much fat. And I encourage you to lower the fat in your diet and to get rid of oil in your diet. And the best way to lower your fat intake is to, well, one, to get rid of animal products, because those contain a lot of fat, regardless if they are organic, free range, etc., etc. They still contain a lot of fat, a lot more than plant foods. And with plant oils, they are 100% fat as well. So it's getting rid of them from your diet is a great way to get rid of, or to decrease your fat intake. So what do you do instead? With baking, you can totally bake without using oil. I bake sweet potatoes and potatoes without oil, and they taste great to me, and it's something you can get used to. And with frying, you can use water or vegetable broth and things like that. And it's great, you know. I mean, you can get used to it. It may be a flavor change for some people, but it's totally doable. And the third thing is with sauces and dips. So I'm really big on that, because especially if you want to get into big salads and you know, putting more raw food into your diet. It doesn't have to be 100%, but you definitely want to eat raw food. So if you want to have a big salad every day, And it can totally have, you know, chickpeas in it or lentils or whatever you want. But one of the things that's going to make it really delicious is making sure it has a good dressing. And so dressings are often made with a lot of oil. And that's why I created a guide that is a guide to making your own oil-free dressings, sauces, and dips. And that guide explains exactly the differences between them, and it gives you this really cool formula for making your own. So it's a table, and you can just print it out and put it on your fridge and fill it out every time that you want to make one. And it's just really pure, oil-free, whole food dressing, sauces, and dips, and you can use them as snacks, and you can use them as like making tomato sauce for pasta or for whatever you're gonna eat it with, your own homemade version, and you can use it for just so many things. And it's a way to get in oil-free recipes into your day. So all these things I'm really, really hoping are tools for you to use. And I would absolutely love to hear from you in the comments if there are any other processed foods that you're struggling to remove, or if you have any other questions, because the way that I create guides and things are based on your needs, and I want to help you get healthier. That is my goal. So please let me know, and I'll post the link. This is a totally free guide, and I'll post the link to it below the video. Another thing I want to let you know is that if you would like to follow me and to see whenever I make more of these, I'm planning on doing it once a week, these little Facebook Live things. And I'm thinking even that we can make some recipes together in the kitchen, just in my messy ways. But you know, it's a lot of fun because you actually get to see the process, and I don't spend too much time in the kitchen, so I can show you exactly how I make my food. So just make sure to subscribe to this Facebook Live, and then you will be able to get notifications when I make my next video. So that's about it for today. I think I covered everything. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for watching this later. And again, if you have any questions, I'd love to see them. And I hope you can also join us on Raw Souls, the Facebook group. Have an awesome day, everybody. Bye.